Oh, hey YouTube, it's Chuck. Welcome back to the B-Lab. Got the camera rolling today. Got a few things I want to talk about and get into the apiary and do. And I figured I would get out here early and start about it. I got a new box of foundation last night from Acorn. This is my second box this year. I should have bought more at the expo. So if you go to the expo or you go any of these conferences where they're selling this stuff, just go ahead and stock up. It's always smarter to do it that way. They were actually sold out at the expo by the time I went to buy some, so you got to get it on day one because they'll sell out or even pre-order it. I've been using Acorn for the past few years, and I wanted to have a little bit of a conversation about foundation. I've got some frames I built up yesterday. I still prefer Mann Lake frames. There are good frames everywhere. I make my own. I don't buy them assembled. The reason is for storage. I like to have them packed away, and then I unload them and make them. I essentially lay the top bar in, I put glue in here, put glue in there, I staple, and I put glue in every joint, and then I staple 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And another trick I have that I wanted to pass along, mark your frames. Use the queen color. Why not? You know, there's a naming scheme so you can tell how old something is, and I'll know this is the 2025 frame because I've marked it blue. Something I've started over the last few years. You kind of glance into a hive and you can see the remnants of the dots you made in the year past, and you kind of know that's a 1, 2, 3-year-old frame, especially with the foundation getting drawn out and how old the wax could end up being. Just a technique, you know, you don't need to write the year, just put a little color of the dot on there. Foundation. So when you buy from Acorn, and there's other good brands out there. I've bought Premier in the past, Right-Cell. I'm not here to say which one is better or not, but I'm going to tell you why I've chosen to go with Acorn and Right-Cell also. I buy from Acorn the 100 pack of the Deeps. And believe it or not, if you get their heaviest wax, they only put 90 sheets in here. So if I don't get their heaviest wax, I back off one, they put a full 100 sheets in here. It's the full deep frames. I bend the corners off. And for those of you that didn't know this, most foundations has perforated bottom corners. And I break the corners off because when you put these in the frames, the bees kind of like to have a way of crossing around between the top and the bottom. And that's what those holes are for, so the bees can traverse, or the queens can traverse sides without having to go all the way around. I just prefer that. You can see this heavy wax is pretty good. I think if you put them in the hive first season, this is enough. If this box is exposed to the bees or even the wax moths, they might eat a little bit of the wax off and you might need to re-wax it next year. I have gone with the Acorn foundation because of its thickness. And you might say, why does thickness matter? And I'll tell you, there's nothing more frustrating than a frame or foundation, especially before it gets completely drawn out. Once it gets completely drawn out, if it's drawn out straight, it's usually fine. But if you take a frame and it, sits in here, or it's exposed to the sun, or it's sitting in a box and it gets hot, the thinner ones can bend. And when I say bend, I mean actually deform. And that drives me bonkers. So like this is nice and thick. It's got some rigidity to it this way. If you've ever had a bent frame of foundation and then you put it in there, if it's bent just by 1/4 of an inch like that, on this side they won't even be able to lay brood. On this side the brood will be extra deep. And it's like it's just a bad frame. You put them into the hive and you put it in the center, it doesn't have a good home because it's bent. And I've tried to come up with ways of re-straightening it by putting a staple through the middle and kind of capturing both sides to re-center it. It's frustrating. So I guess my point in saying all that is just get the thickest stuff you can if you've ever experienced that. And all foundation is not equal. I choose black so I can see eggs a little bit easier with my aging eyes. I think it's just a technique and it doesn't cost any more to choose black. I choose the heaviest wax I can buy, with the exception of maybe, still getting 100 sheets versus, paying a little bit more for wax. I usually have enough wax to add a little bit on here. Sometimes I've bought zero wax foundation, and it's kind of nice to have as a backup because you can store no wax foundation forever and you always have some. But if you store wax foundation, that wax will not be there in 5 years somehow. It just goes somewhere. Maybe it's the wax moths, maybe it's the roaches, I don't know what, but the wax will go away. So I guess don't buy wax for long-term storage. Buy plain plastic for long-term storage or backups, and then make sure you roll it on. I always cut the corners out. That's optional. It does kind of bust your knuckles a little bit to do that for every single sheet. And you definitely save money assembling your own, and or storage is smaller. It takes a lot of space to store assembled frames, right? I mean, versus just sheets of this and parts of these foundations. So I'm not selling Acorn. Acorn didn't buy this for me. I paid for this with my own money. It cost about almost $200 to have it shipped. It's like 138 plus shipping that takes it to like 193, and there's some tax in there. So you're kind of into the. You can get this stuff on sale from both Man Lake. Their right sale is thick enough. You can get it on sale sometimes a year, and they do offer free shipping over $150. Yeah, so that's my foundation discussion I wanted to talk about. I'm building these frames out just because I love to have extra frames ready to go for splits or nukes, swarm traps, or whatever you need. Swarm season is pretty much over here in Jacksonville. I caught one this week, but going from 5 a week down to like 1 every other week is almost over. So I'm going to be putting these in here. We're not going to make the whole video of this. I just wanted to talk about foundation, marking your frames, assembling your frames, and where to buy them, and why thickness is the important part. Another thing, I've got some Corey Stevens Missouri Mite Hunter virgins arriving this week. Gosh, I hope they arrive this week. I paid for them on Monday. He's got this website right now where he puts available virgins available on Monday. If you're notified, you've got to order them quick because they go out of stock. I ordered 5 of Corey Stevens Varroa Sensitive Hygiene virgins that I'm going to introduce into my apiary. I'm just going to try to, try this stock. Obviously it's going to have to be open mated here. You have to introduce virgins into queenless hives and get them accepted, get them mated and come down. But those will be my breeder queens. And I'm not going to treat those hives that have his queen virgins in them. And I'm going to do some Harbo testing and some mite resistance testing and hopefully use that for my breeder stock from here on out. Just because my genetics are good, but they're not Varroa resistant, and they're not, and he's done about 3 or 4 generations of Varroa resistance even with drones and artificial insemination, and I'm just going to leverage his work to kind of kickstart my Varroa sensitive genetics. They're not very expensive. They're like $35 a piece plus shipping. So 5 queens shipped, $65 in shipping. It was like $240. I'm not saying that's cheap, but it's not like you're spending hundreds of dollars on breeder queens or things like that. But the responsibility for you to introduce them and to get them mated is probably the trick that you're taking on. But honestly, it saves him a lot of time. He can just hatch virgins from his stock and mail them to you for a little bit less than a mated queen, but a lot less time for him to get a queen laying right and push that on the user. I completely support his decision of moving to virgins. So Corey, I don't think you watch my channel, but if you do, good on you. I think that was a smart move, and for your new business, now that you're doing this full time, I think that was the right choice. Yeah, but I'm excited to get those. I hope they arrive. I paid with PayPal. I didn't get any sort of shipping or tracking information. I've got my hives queenless, awaiting on these virgins, and I sent a little email this morning saying, are they coming? I kind of need to know with regards to timing of my nukes. I expect they will. Any case, the other thing, so we're going to be doing that. I'll be talking about that with videos, and if they arrive, I'll show you the virgins and how I put them in and things like that. The important thing about introducing virgins, and we have sort of talked about this, and we'll talk about a little bit later, you got to have a hive that is hopelessly queenless, or is willing to accept a virgin, or you're willing to accept the risk that they don't accept that virgin. If they've got their own queen cells started, it's not a good system. You got to cut those queen cells out, and they have to have no eggs in that hive so they can make another queen cell. They have to be hopelessly queenless. That takes about 7 to 9 days after the introduction of a split or any sort of frames with eggs. If you keep adding eggs, you're restarting that 7 to 9 days possibly for a hive to think they can make their own queen. The mini mating nukes are effectively hopelessly queenless, right? you know, if you can get them adapted to one of these boxes and maybe even put a little queen mandibular pheromone strip in there so you can hold those bees in there, you could introduce a virgin in there because they've got no eggs to work with. And I'm probably going to do some of Corey's queens in mini mating nukes over here, the little ones, and then some 3 framers just to give a mix so I can hopefully get my success up there. You know, you get 5 virgins. I'm expecting I'm going to get 3 mated, something like that, maybe 4. If I get all 5 mated, that would be fabulous, but acceptance is not guaranteed. I've got that demo ray out there today. We're going to go crack in after we're done with this chit chat, and I'm going to go check on the virgins that hatched out that I put nurse bees. I hope they were all nurse bees. I took them out of a bucket after the forager should have flown away to see if the hatching in the bank frames led to a better success rate of the virgins surviving. When I took out those virgins on the last video, you may remember, I think it was 2 out of the 3 were dead in the bottom, and there was 1 crawling around in there, but I don't know if she had just hatched and just hadn't had the chance to die yet. So I'm hoping putting these nurse bees in there will allow the trophallaxis to feed the queens and they're still alive. It's been a few days and they're either gonna be dead or alive, and we'll find out. And if I've got some alive ones, I do have some mini mating nukes that maybe the queens didn't hatch, or I've written on there need queen. So I do need some shakes of some bees too. So that's what we're gonna do today. I talked about frames, talked about the Missouri Mite Hunter virgins coming in the next few days. And then we're gonna go check on these virgins to see if adding nurse bees improved their survival rate. And I think that'll be it for today. So let's get into the apiary and see those virgins in the queen bank. Stick with me. All right, everybody, we're out in the apiary. I'm gonna crack this one open. And I'm all gloved up because I'm gonna probably disturb them a little bit. Yeah, they're a little bit buzzy already. This hive is getting strong. I don't know if you can see this with the camera angle I gave you, but I'm gonna show you real quick. That's where I've got this stem array right now, and that center new looking frame is basically where our virgins are. Don't know what to expect. I'm going to take this whole box off so I'm not working this high, because I'm going to do some shakes also. And you guys see me here? Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, you can. There's some, you know, this is a good example of festooning. See some festooning right here? See these bees? This is why I need to get more foundation in here. They're still working on this frame, but they will do burr comb on these edges. If you don't want that, you need to either have full foundation in there, or you need to use follower boards. And follower boards I've talked about in the past look like this, you know, just little frames. If you set this in there right next to that, that will keep them from doing that. And they'll draw your comb out straight. So if you're drawing out new foundation, I recommend using follower boards or full foundation. I caught this in time, but let's kind of crack this open just to kind of see how they're festooning. Yeah, there's no burr comb yet, but they're starting to draw it out. Nice up close look at those bees for you. Sun's not quite shining on me yet, so no glare and no super duper light. All right, we're here to look at virgins though. Think they're alive? Think they're dead? This is a little bit of Schrodinger, right? You guys know who Schrodinger is? Schrodinger was a physicist that talked about quantum states. And there's an experiment, a thought experiment called Schrodinger's cat, where until you look and observe whether or not a cat is alive inside of a box that had a poison in it or not, you don't know if the cat was dead or alive, and it was in a state of being both dead and alive until you observe it. So here I am now observing Schrodinger's bees. So I don't know how to, the bees are crawling on them, not ignoring them. So to me, that means I think I did better. You know, with the worker bees in there, I think I'm gonna have to crack open some of these cages, to see if there's a virgin in there and or if it hatched. These should have hatched on the 7th. Let me just start on the outer edge and look. I'm going to look with you up close just in case you can see. Is there a virgin? There's a worker. There's a worker. No virgin. Hatched out of the side. That's not good. So that's a worker. That's a worker. All right, so maybe that's not okay. Nothing there. And chewed out from the side. So maybe that was a false, or maybe they cannibalized it. What do you guys that have done this before, what do you think that means? Chewed out from the side is normally done by workers that are breaking down cells before they hatch, but I didn't find a pupa or dead larva. We're gonna find out though, aren't we? They could have broken them down because they felt queen right. All right, that one hatched from the bottom. See that? She's not in there. Do I have a virgin? Yes, I got a virgin. Okay, so I have an alive virgin hatched out from the bottom. So that is success, and she is being cared for, and she has been alive in here for 3 days, 2 days. I need some queens, so I need a couple queens. I'm not gonna take all these out. Let me do some more with you. Since now we've got 50-50, alive and dead. Schrodinger knew what he was talking about. Nobody's dead in this one. Kind of a mid-hatch from the bottom. Does that have a little trapdoor on it? It hatched, but let's see. Is there a virgin in here? No virgin. No virgin. So, kind of a tiny little side hatch and nothing in there. So, I'm not sure what's going on yet. What do you guys think? I'm going to put this in my pocket so I don't forget her. If they broke it down, they could have eaten the pupa. That could have been what happened. Maybe they were using it for food. Let's see what we got here. Another side. But I think I got a virgin in this one. Yes. Let me double check. Yep, there's a virgin in there. So, the side rule is not 100%. And she's alive though. So everything, there have been no dead virgins. So in other words, nobody's dead on the bottom yet. That's just a worker. So I got my 2 live virgins in here. I think that's all I need for the moment. So anybody else I'm gonna leave in the bank frame. This is hopeful, meaning like if they're crawling all around, to me, I don't think they're just taking care of their sisters. I think they're taking care of queens. Yep, there's a virgin in there. Let's just take a check at how she hatched for the purposes of data collection. Yeah, she wants out. Hatched out of the bottom. All right, so hatched out of the bottom is 100% alive so far. Hatched out of the side, 2 dead, 1 alive. I don't know if you guys think this is funny or not. This is kind of, I'm learning something. Well, the one thing I did learn is workers have improved the success rate of the virgins that hatched being alive. I have a little bit of a flaw to my queen cages, and I'm going to show you right here. So I designed these, and I used this little hexagonal design, and I looked up the number of millimeters for a worker bee excluder, but I think I got it a 1/10 of a millimeter too big. See that little worker bee's head went through, and she died in there. There's another virgin in here, so this is successful too. We'll do the hatch test just to see. I think it looks like it's a bottom hatch. Yeah, it's got a little trap door on it too. So that's a classic hatch with an alive virgin. Very good. So the workers are keeping them alive. Without the workers last week, they died. Or earlier in the week, they all died. I'm going to check every single one of these because I'm going to test how long they stay alive. Not till they die, but meaning like I don't want some of these to not be in here and me wonder later. I don't need to open up any more of them though. If I see a virgin, Yes, virgin. Successful. This transparent PETG that I print with is nice to be able to look through. But if I print more of these, I think I need to shrink the hole size. Golly, it looks like I got a trapdoor hatch, but do I have a virgin in here? I don't see her. Yeah, it's a good hatch. Oh no, it's not. There's a pupa in here. You see that? So that's what was in there. So in this situation, I think that the bees might have been eating the pupa of the unsuccessful hatches. So I don't think there's a virgin in here. No, there's not, because I found the pupa. So I think that's what's going on. On this one, they just didn't eat yet, or couldn't get to eat it. So the pupa, they're cannibalizing. If they're going in from the sides and I'm not finding anything, they've cannibalized the pupa for food. Definitely got a nice looking virgin in here. Looks good. The indication of the bees on the cages has not been 100% of an indicator yet. Definitely got a virgin in there too. And she's alive. No dead virgins. The only things I've found so far are unhatched cells that were cannibalized. There are no hatched virgins that died. Yep, that's a virgin. Yep, another successful one. I've lost count. You guys keeping count? It doesn't really matter at this point. It's mostly successful. And the lesson I've learned, yep, successful. The lesson I've learned is that the workers made the difference, and those ones that didn't make it wouldn't have made it anyway. I just wouldn't have known. 2 workers, and it does not look successful in here. Yeah, here's another one. Chewed it from the side, so they've cannibalized. Nothing in here. Like, where did it go? They ate it. Cannibalized. So this would have just been a dud that didn't hatch, most likely. It has nothing to do with them getting hungry and eating the queen, I don't think. I think this is just, they recognized she wasn't hatching and they went in and chewed in from the sides. I got a queen in here. This is fun. I'm learning something. Hopefully you guys are too. It's a little bit extra effort to put in. That was a nice hatch from the bottom, but I don't know, is there a virgin in there? See, this is one of my white ones and I can't see quite, yeah, there's a virgin. I can't see quite as well through it. Specifically like the size of a virgin. That transparent PETG I was printing out of, I can see the size perfectly. Even though it's not like in focus, you can kind of see the object size through it. Man, these workers are everywhere. They're doing a good job. Yep, virgin. So how many virgins I got in my pocket? I think I got 2 in my pocket. And virgin. So, definite lesson learned. If you're going to bank virgins, the success rate of keeping them fed is based off of having nurse bees, is what I think I got in there. I did the whole shake and the bucket thing and let the foragers fly away. So I got 2, 4, 10 here and 2 in my pocket. So I've got 12 virgins. I think I got homes for 2 of these in my mini mating nukes that I don't think have queens. I may need to use these later today, but remember I told you I got Corey Stevens queens coming. These queens are going to play second fiddle to Corey's queens. I don't have that many mating nukes, but this is more of a queen experiment that I now understand. So my Desmarais starter finisher bank experiment is now almost complete, with the added step of needing to add workers to hatch these out. I would say you can't put workers in there too early. There's evidence that they chewed some cells out in here. Are the workers smart enough to only chew out the cells after they realize there's a non-viable queen? Maybe. But me putting these workers in here the day they were supposed to hatch, I think probably led to that success. And they're also providing feeding mechanisms for these virgins in here. So that is, I'm really, really happy about that. And since they're feeding up here, more than likely there's some virgins. And I've got my bucket to do some shakes. This is just a lid for the bucket after the foragers fly away. So when the bees want to festoon on something, they've got something to hang on. Let's kind of see, yeah, this has still got cat brood in it. Kind of show you. So there's definitely, from that last rotation that I had to cut queen cells on the 5th, there's still brood up in here that's hatching out. So this hive is still growing. We finally got some rain and we're getting more. So our flow might pick back up. So you might say, whoa, there's a queen cell. That is a cup. And there's no queen up here to make anything, and there's nothing in it. But that's what we're looking for when we're in this Desmarais, is anything suspicious that you might have missed on your last check. This is hatching brood. So this is almost hatched out. Look, she's getting ready to have a birthday. You see her? Another couple of them, 2 birthdays right there. Little queen cups are making. You don't need to take those out, but for me it's to indicate that I've seen them. You know, I don't leave queen cups in a place where I don't want them, just so that I know that next time I'm here, if I see some, I didn't remove them. A little bit of propolis clean up. You guys scrape the propolis off your edges so your frames fit better? I do. I know propolis is part of the hive. This is all honey. This is probably mostly foragers, but do a gentle shake. All the corners are filled. None of it's capped, but they're filling this up. And this is that frame on the edge I already showed you that they were festooning on and drawing out. More capped. There's plenty of bees in this hive. You guys might be worried about me taking all the nurse bees away. I don't need any more. That's all I need, but they're going to come up and take care of these bees. This is fine. I'm just doing an inspection. I'm not going to shake anymore. All hatched out, fill them with honey. This is foundation frame for them to draw. Not drawing that one yet. No, they're drawing that side there. And this one, so I'm going to add, you know, you saw me doing that foundation a little bit earlier. I was out of it, so I needed some more. So, how many do I need? I need at least 1. So I could use follower boards, or just since I got the foundation, add it. And I don't know if you remember me telling you about the frame age. Yeah, you do. It was just at the beginning of this video. Look, that was green. That was last year. So I know how old that frame is. That was last year's frame. You know, these dots wear off. There's a chance that it'll wear off before you need to swap them out, if that makes sense. Before I'm putting this back in the middle, I'm counting frames in between the brood frames, so dead center. That's my queen bank, and I know where it is, and it's not even marked. And then 1 more foundation frame. And I'm going to cover up these nurse bees for my virgins. While I'm here, just see if I need an extra super on here. Sorry, clearing my throat on the microphone for you. Getting close here. Some of you would say that's ready to pull. This was in the dead center. Let me pull an end frame. Woo. Still drawing this out a little bit. This is where I like to sometimes equalize. If they've got a really strong, they're working in the center, move those almost pulled frames out to the edge and add the ones that need a little bit more work into the middle. The equalization of honey frames. I can't remember. I got more supers if I need to add some, but I think I had this super on top, and I think I got room down here for them to, yeah. This next one, They're still drawing this out. There's beautiful new wax in there though. Beautiful. See how they filled out the center in there? That must have been foundation. You can tell at the beginning of the season. And they've repaired that and are actively filling it with nectar. Sorry, I got my back to you. We're talking, you can hear me. So this can be filled in 3 days if the flow kicks back in strong. So let me make sure I got more room down here. They're not happy. You know what? They're not capped yet, so I'm going to put another frame. This is going to be another 4-stacker, but they've got that top one to continue to draw in, so I'm not too worried. I just added some foundation, but I've got one more super that I don't have on a hive yet. I'm just going to put it on this one, even if it's temporary, because I need them to polish this up. This is going to make this Desmarais a stack, though. I could probably pull that one. You guys are even saying it while you're watching it in your TVs. That one's ready to pull, but I'm not ready to pull it. So we're playing that game. Now my queen bank is going to be 7 feet high. I am putting upper entrances cracked. Yeah, this one can come off probably in a few days. With sticks here, making upper entrances. Now I've got to get that sucker up there. Got my queen bank in it. Oh, it's not heavy though, so it's not, they got a lot of room for honey in there. But if they fill that up, that's gonna be heavy high. High heavy. Woo! Wow. I've never had hives this high before. Mostly because I've worked really hard to not ever let them lay honey in my deeps. You guys see that from your camera angle? Let me make sure you can. No, yeah, you got it. But there it is. Okay, so what did we learn today? We talked about foundation. Buy the thickest stuff you can afford. Buy the most wax you can afford. The thin stuff I would stay away from. I'm not going to mention brand names. I'm going to let you figure it out on your own. I'm not going to shun any brand, but there are a couple brands I don't buy anymore. Buy it at the conferences if you can. You save shipping. And that one thing with Acorn, if you buy the heaviest wax they sell, they're only going to send you 90 sheets because they're kind of, it doesn't fit, they said, or it's too heavy. So they, you know, I back off one just to get 100 sheets. Technique on my part. Mark your frames with colors. There's a technique to know how old they are, to know when to rotate them out. And then the queen banks. I got 2 virgins here, and I got 10 more in there. So I got 12 virgins that are alive all week long after hatching because I put worker bees in there. Last week's queens, I only had 1 that survived, and they had no worker bees. So the nurse bees in the bank, when they hatch, is keeping them alive. I'm certain of it. The ones that were not in there, I think were non-viable queens, most likely. And they chewed out the sides, and they cannibalized the protein from the pupa. That's what I think happened. If any of you have experience with that, and you think that they may have chewed those cells down, because they thought they had a queen, then tell me why the rest of them survived, or if there's some logic in there. You know, this is pseudo queenless, right? The queen's way down here, so I've got her separated. So that's kind of the thing about this Desmarais. They make queen cells, but they'll also finish them. But in a case, a couple of these, they ate the pupa. Maybe, I don't think they were viable pupa, and I think that one we found was our definite there. Okay, I think I'm going to end that there. I'm not going to show you putting these virgins in those nukes, because when Corey's queens show up, we'll do a little bit more of a virgin video there. So, hey, leave some comments below. If you're watching on your TV, pull out your phone and leave me a comment. Let me know if you made it to the end of this video. And if you got any suggestions, comments, or can answer any of the questions I brought up, let me know. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.